But first, this Tuesday, it's getting ugly. The venom directed at AIG executives who are getting $165 million in bonuses, even though they helped get us into this economic mess. Listen to Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley on WMT Radio in Cedar Rapids.
I would suggest the first thing that would make me feel a little bit better towards them if they'd follow the Japanese example and come before the American people and take that deep bow and say, I'm sorry, and then either do one of two things, resign or go commit suicide.
Now, remember, AIG lost $62 billion last quarter. That's the biggest quarterly loss ever. On the watch of these folks who are getting all this bonus money, Carol Costello joins us now live from Washington. It's like somebody burning down their house and you say, nice job with the matches. Here's a few dollars in your pocket as a bonus. My gosh.
Yeah, it's harsh out there, isn't it? You know, some political analysts fear public anger has reached a tipping point. Voters are beyond angry and may be even more leery of government bailouts. And, of course, that could make things much more difficult for President Obama, although he and many others are trying to force AIG to give those bonuses back.
America has declared war on AIG. From the president,
this outrage to the taxpayers who are
to Congress,
people who screwed this thing up enormously,
to New York's Attorney General, to taxpayers. And the time for tact is over.
Makes me feel disgusted.
Makes me angry, certainly.
Well, they can change the law. They do every day.
If you're a CEO of a company like that, you shouldn't be able to drive a limo. You should ride your ass on the subway like everybody else does.
Public outrage has intensified ever since word leaked out that some AIG executives will receive $165 million in bonuses, despite the fact thanks to a $170 billion bailout, now own 80% of AIG. How can that be? AIG says there's nothing it can do. It's bound by pre-existing contracts that, if voided, would lead to serious legal as well as business consequences for not paying. And while that may be true, there are plenty who say bull.
The auto workers had a contract too. They're being asked to modify it. Why in the world was AIG's executives and workers not asked to modify their contracts, particularly those that caused the problem?
Because experts say those executives knew AIG would not be allowed to collapse because the government believes AIG's failure would tank the whole economy. By contrast, the auto unions voluntarily modified their contracts because the government made it clear bankruptcy was an option.
Federal money should be conditioned on elimination of old claims, whether that's done in bankruptcy or through a nationalization process. Before the federal government pours money into a troubled company that it deems necessary to save, the government should make sure that that money goes where it's intended.
So what can the government do? Well, it can wield the shame weapon. The New York Attorney General now wants names so he can publicly determine who is getting a bonus and whether they were involved in conduct that led to AIG's demise. And Congress will hold hearings on Wednesday. The star attraction, Edward Liddy, AIG's government-appointed chairman.
And I think it's safe to say, John, he is in for a rough time. Here's another idea floating around out there. Congresswoman Maloney plans to introduce legislation that would tax any bonus compensation at 100%. Don't know if that will fly. On the bright side, Democrats and Republicans have found something finally they can agree on. AIG executives, both sides say, should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, I don't know if Congresswoman Maloney's legislation will fly, but there's certainly a lot of people out there who look at this AIG thing and say, okay, so these are retention bonuses so that they can keep the best and the brightest. And if the folks who drove the economy into the ground are the best and the brightest, might do better without them.
You know, I asked an economist why some of these executives weren't ashamed to take the money, and she told me, probably tongue-in-cheek, that these people know they're toxic. They can't get a job anyplace else, so they might as well take the money because it might be the last big money they'll ever make.
Sure, we're going to hear a lot more about this. Carol Costello for us this morning. Carol, thanks so much. Sure. Karen?